so welcome aboard. How are y'all doing today? Great. We're all ready for a safari? Yeah. I love to hear that. Alrighty, well if you're on the right side, just watch your hands, arms, feet, and legs. We're sliding, the door's closed. Sante Sana Warden. That does mean thank you in Swahili. And we also say Twende here, and Twende does mean let's go. Woo. Now Jumbo friends, welcome to Kilimanjaro Safari. My name is Paula and I'm going to be your safari guide today as we head through the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. But before we head on in, just a few safety reminders. Now remember, we have to remain fully seated with our hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the truck at all times. Now this is a real truck that I am really driving, and whereby I see a lot of real life animals out here today. And they do like to get nice and close sometimes here. So if they do, friends, just remember that we can't reach out to try to touch them, pet them. We also cannot call out, whistle, or make any hissing sounds at the animals. It's not the safest thing to do, and it makes them feel a little uncomfy. We don't want to do that. We want to get to them as much as we can today. But speaking of animals, if you look above you, you're going to see that animal spotting guide. It's going to help you to recognize any of them that we might be seeing today. Hopefully we'll get to see a vast majority of them, but don't you worry, I got you guys with the great views here. But this is also a photo safari, so have those phones and cameras out and ready so you can take as many pictures and videos as you want. But I do recommend to hold on tight to those phones, cameras, even your other personal items, because this is a very bumpy ride. But if any of those items were to fall off the truck, just raise your hand to let me know and I'll get a warden to go and grab it for you. Just can't promise I'll get back to you in the same condition you left it in though. But now, alrighty friends, we're going to start our journey in the Little Ituri Forest. And the animals that live here, they love to play hide and seek. But it seems like the okapi is out and about today. You can see her first thing on my right side there.
It's an okapi.
Now looking at the okapi, you can definitely notice those dark brown and white stripes she has. Kind of looks like they're related to the zebras, but they're actually cousins of the giraffes. And some similarities they have with them is their face shape, and their tongues can even grow to be up to 18 inches long. So wait, ew. They can even touch their own eyes with their tongues. It's kind of gross. But just like the giraffes, the okapis have these things called ossicones on top of their heads. Looks a little bit like horns, but it's only the males that have these. So it's an easy way to tell that the one we saw there was a female. But now up ahead on the hill here on our right side, you can see an animal with a very light brown coat and a couple of white stripes. That is going to be the greater kudu. They're hiding pretty well in the bushes. But that coat though, it does help them camouflage extremely well. But something else that helps them out is that they can bark just like a dog. They usually do to confuse their predators, and it helps to scare them off too. But now up ahead on our left side, I see a little bit of a black rhino. I'll keep going slowly so we can get a better view of them. On the right side, you guys can all see the greater kudu again here. They're a little closer there. But there's that black rhino. Yeah, he's a handsome boy. He knows it. He's drooling a bit too. Now, black rhinos, they are the smallest species of rhinoceros here in Africa. They can actually grow up to weigh around 3,000 pounds. But since they are the smallest, they're a bit on the shorter side. But thankfully for them, they do have a top prehensile lip. So that lip is going to help them reach above. That way they can grasp onto any of the leaves they want to feed on. So it's very helpful for them. And now over here, as we're heading out of the forest, we're going to be going through the Safi River. And since the river is in the name, I'm sure you guys can take a quick guess on what that might mean. And my guess is that probably does mean aquatic animals. So let's just keep our eyes peeled towards the large bodies of water we're about to pass through. See who we might find hiding down there. Probably still sleeping too. Up ahead, I do see a couple of pink-backed pelicans. And way back in the right, there's also some Nile hippos sleeping down there. If you don't see the hippos that well, don't worry. We might find a couple more on our left side. But these pink-backed pelicans here, they get their name because of the pink color of their skin. But if you look at them, they don't look super pink right now. It's because that color, it only brightens up during their mating seasons. But something that male pelicans love to do during that time, though, is they go out and find a wooden stick. That way they'll go up to a female of their choosing with it, and they'll be like, hey, you should like me, just because I have this wooden stick right here. So that means we can build a nest together. It's adorable. And yeah, we're right. There's a couple more hippos there on the left side there.
Oh, he's swimming.
He's swimming. Now, a little group of hippos, kind of like the one we found out here today. This is going to be called a bloat. And they got that name because, unfortunately, they cannot float. Since they are very heavy animals, their bodies will sink down to the ground. But it's okay. What they'll do instead of swimming is run along the river bottom so they can get from place to place. And they like to sleep under there too. Since the hippos can hold their breath for up to 8 minutes, they're going to spend a lot of their days just under the water. The only time they come out though is to sunbathe on the sand, or they're going to come up and eat some grass too. But the hippos, they love to eat foods like lettuce and watermelons, and they eat around 85 to 90 pounds of vegetation like that a day. That can even equal to the same amount a baby hippo can weigh as well, but just the first couple months after them being born. But now over here, we're gonna have to cross this wonky looking bridge, but don't mind the bridge, just keep your eyes select and you'll see a couple of Nile crocodiles hanging out over there. Those Nile crocodiles, they are the largest species of crocodile in all of Africa. And since they're so big, they can have a lot of food. They can eat just around half their body weight in just one sitting. And they do like to eat big portions like that a couple times throughout the day, because you know they need to have their breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And yeah, I know it might make them seem kind of scary because of how much food they can eat, but they are known for being pretty great parents. And one example I can give you of this is that the parents, they like to roll their eggs around in their mouth for a couple of minutes. And they do this for a while because it's going to help soften the outer layer of the eggshell, making it easier for the baby crocodiles to hatch out of them. So it's kind of sweet, really. But the crocodiles are also one of the only animals in the world that can't really move their tongue around. That's because it's attached to the bottom of their mouth. So if they wanted to stick their tongue out, they can't. But it's alright. It does help them keep a nice firm grasp of things, kind of like those eggs that we just mentioned. But also inside their mouth, they have a little bit of a small pouch in there. So usually what the parents of the crocodiles like to do is that they're going to make a little whistle noise if they hear a predator coming towards them. So then it's going to alert their babies to go inside the parent's mouth and hide inside that pouch. And the parents will release them once they feel it's safe enough to come back out once those predators have left. But now what I'm sure what most of you have been waiting for, we're finally heading into the savannah. And the savannah is home to many of the famous animals that we have on the reserve. Kind of the majority of them, really. So hopefully we'll get to see a couple of the giraffes, zebras, cheetahs, elephants, or maybe even the lions will be out today. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But I already see a couple of the Hartman Mountain zebras on our right side. And I see the third is way in the back, kind of separated. But it does seem like we found a herd of them, and this is going to be called a dazzle. Isn't it so cute? So we just found a dazzle of zebras. And now, question for you guys, since we get this close look at them here. Now, can you all give me a show of hands if you think the zebras are black with white stripes? No one? Okay, that's awkward then. Then raise your hand if you think they are white with black stripes. Alrighty guys, well it seems like we're all going to be wrong. Actually, they are in fact neither. They're just a mixture of the stripes, but they're actually dark brown and white stripes though. Interesting, right? As they get older, the dark brown does appear a little darker, but you can still see it a tiny bit on top of their nose. But it is very cool though. Their stripe pattern, it is unique to each and every one of them. I say it's like a barcode, but it is a way that it helps the babies memorize the stripe pattern their parents have. That way they can help to identify which is which when they're out in the wild. But now over here, way in the back left with the long and skinny horns, you guys can see a couple of the sable antelopes sitting down there. The sable antelopes, their long and skinny horns, it does point downwards towards their body, and that not only helps them to reach over and scratch an itch that they can't get to, but it also helps to prevent any predators from jumping onto their backs when they're trying to prey on them. But they do feel more protected when they're sitting down, just like how they were back there, because they feel like they can maneuver their horns around a little easier. It's like their own defense tactic, really. But the sable antelopes, they are the emblem of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve, and that is simply because they love teamwork and they refuse to leave anybody behind. And Harambe in Swahili, it does mean to come together, so they're kind of the perfect representative for us, for the reserve at least. But as we keep heading around, you get to see all these trees that we're going through. So these are called acacia trees. And actually, if you look at all the leaves too, it does seem like their leaves are trimmed at the same height level. But that's not a coincidence. It is going to be from the Maasai giraffes. And I see them all straight ahead here. But they are the tallest land animal in the world, so of course they get most of their food above them. And one of their favorite foods to eat are these leaves specifically from the acacia trees. That's why some of the lower branches don't have a lot of leaves on them. I'm sure they were eating from it not too long ago. But just like the zebras, the giraffes, their spots on their coats is unique to all of them too. But then I compare it to more how our fingerprints are for all of us. But you can see it very well because we get to see a nice little variety here of the giraffes. And now, actually, since we're passing by the zebra again, if you guys look at their neck, you see that little flappy thing, looks like an Adam's apple. Now that's gonna be called a dewlap. And what it does for them is gonna help circulate the blood through their body, so it's gonna help regulate their body temperature. So right now, it's getting a little bit hotter outside. That means the dewlap is helping to work and keep the zebra nice and cool on the inside. And the ossicones for the giraffes, which you can see it very well on all of them there. Now it's gonna do the same exact thing for them too. Now the ossicones, I know they do look like horns, but they're not made out of bone. They're made out of a soft, squishy structure, which it does harden as they get older. But it does work in other ways too, like if it's colder outside, it's going to help work and keep them nice and warm there too. And they're not used to it, especially here in Africa. But the Maasai giraffes, they are the tallest land animal in the world, like I mentioned. But that's because they can grow up to be around 18 to 21 feet tall. And that does mean the females, they have to give birth standing up because of the height. So then what that means for the babies is that they have a 6-foot drop ahead when they're born. But don't worry guys, the drop is not that bad. It does help to start the baby's hearts, and it gives them a little push so they can start walking the first couple minutes they're born. So, you know, good baby works. But they are very quick learners. The babies usually start walking between the first 15 minutes and an hour after they've been born there. But now over here, it seems like we're entering some elephant sanctuary. I see a couple of them up ahead. Oh, there's one that's super close on the right side, actually.
Oh, hello. Hello, big baby. I bet you have really soft ears.
Now, the African elephants, they are the largest land animal in the whole world. And so that means just like the Nile crocodiles, they can eat a lot of food, but they only eat around 300 pounds a day. And I know that still sounds like a big amount, but that doesn't really compare to their whole body mass. Like for example, the largest male elephant that we have out here, he's weighing around 16,000 pounds right now.
Me too.
Okay, I think they can probably get another view over here. We'll just keep heading up a little slowly. Yeah, they're way over here on the right side.
Look at the elephant.
Oh, that's our large male. There he is.
Hey, buddy. How you
Making
doing?
some use of his trunk there. Hi.
Hi.
Now the elephant's trunks, it does work as multiple things. It's like their extra hand, nose, mouth, and even be a straw, but it's not a very good straw though. So if you can imagine yourself drinking from one, now let's say you're going to put your thumb over it. You're clearly not going to get anything out of that straw. And that's the same way the trunks work for the elephants, but they can still fill them up with up to 5 gallons of water. So usually what they'll do is fill their trunks up with that water and reach it up into their mouth so they can drink it that way. Or they even release it as they throw the water on their body to cool themselves off. That's going to be one of the ways to kind of feel a little bit cooler on the hot days out here. But if we found those 2 elephants, hopefully we'll find a couple more from the herd. We'll just keep heading a little deeper into their habitat this way. And actually we are passing through a couple of red clay pits on our right and left. This is definitely a good sign those elephants are nearby. They usually like to scratch their tusks against this clay. It's going to help to smooth them out. So it's like a nail file for them. And that's even where these tusk markings come from that you guys are going to see on the right side there. So they're definitely close not too long ago. There's even a couple of track markings on the ground on our left. And yeah, we are right there. They are. Now the red clay though, it even works as a couple other things. Like the elephants, they like to scratch it off so they can eat it. But it's really good. It does contain a lot of important nutrients. So it's like them taking their daily dose of vitamins if you think about it. But it also works as the elephant's natural sunblock. But they have very sensitive skin, so the way they're going to apply it is by filling their trunks up with as much as that red clay, or even some sand, mud, and dirt as they can. That way they're going to release it just as they fling their trunk upwards towards their back, or even downwards towards their underbelly, just to get it all over their bodies as much as they can. So you can see they're all hanging out in the back area there. Now if you guys look at the elephant's ears, you can slightly see it, but you might be able to notice that it's in the shape of the continent Africa. That is one of the ways I like to spot the difference between the African and the Asian elephants. So the Asian elephants, their ears are a little smaller and they have a brighter color to their skin as well. And to the right, you guys will also see a couple of the wildebeest over there. But what's similar to African and Asian elephants have, though, is that they're a female-dominated species. So what this means is that the females, they're going to stick around together throughout their entire life, while the males, they decide to depart just around their teenage years. But then they'll join a new herd of only male elephants, and this will be called a bachelor, of course. It's kind of fitting. But speaking of herds and their names, it seems like we found a very big group of the greater flamingos here. But we're not going to call this a group, herd, or a flock. This is in fact a flamboyance of flamingos. And if you look around the island, you'll be able to spot a couple of the babies. They're the ones with the dark gray colored feathers. They actually have that color once they've hatched from their eggs and have been born. You can see though the babies are slowly starting to turn white. They even have some pink spots coming to them. Now it does take them up to 2 years though to fully get the pink to their feathers, just because it takes a second for their bodies to fully digest the vitamin that gives them the pink, and that will be called keratin. The keratin is in many of their favorite foods, kind of like shrimp and krill. For the flamingos, they're also kind of known for being able to balance themselves extremely well, especially on one leg. But I will tell you guys, no one actually knows the true reasoning behind this. But there's one theory, and it's that the flamingos like to stand up on one leg because it helps them to fall asleep. And I think that's kind of interesting though. It makes themselves comfortable to just fall asleep like that. But now it seems like we have an ostrich ready to cross the road up here in front of us.
Ostrich!
Hopefully she just crosses the road and doesn't really stop in front.
Watch yourself in front.
Now this one is a female. We can tell because of her feathers. You see those little dull gray-like colors. Now the males though, theirs are just black and white. You can still see a little bit of the white on this female, but on the males, the white is a lot cleaner and brighter. And no offense to them, but the ostriches, they're not the brightest animals in the world. Their eyes are bigger than their brains, and I really wish I was joking. Quite literally walking around in circles here all the time. But now way in the back left, we are entering cheetah territory, so I see one laying down next to the tree. She's literally in the back corner. In the shade.
Oh,
I see the cheetah. Cheetah girl.
They are the fastest land animal in the world. They can run up to 75 miles per hour. But when they run, they like to point their tail downwards, and it forms what looks like a letter C. And they do it because it's going to help them to shift around and change that direction when they start to run. And you might think since the cheetahs are so fast, they must be great hunters, but it's quite the opposite because they put a lot of their energy into their running. So once they've caught their food, they're pretty exhausted. So it does give the prey a bit of advantage to escape if they wanted to, which I'm pretty sure they do. And I know the cheetah is super far away, but they also have what looks like these little black teardrops coming down from their eyes. It goes all the way down to their mouth. Now this is a part of their coat, but those black teardrops, it reflects sunlight for them. So it's super helpful, especially during the day when they're running and the sun is blazing in their eyes. So it's like their little pair of sunglasses, really. But now let's see if we might find some of the even bigger cats. Spoiler, could possibly be the lions. Because this island of rocks here, this is called a kopie. But we seem to find white rhinos hiding in the trees here on the right though. And they look kind of orange. They're probably playing in the mud. Now, if you guys remember the black rhino we saw earlier though, I mentioned how they only weigh around 3,000 pounds. Well, the white rhinos here, they're the largest species of rhinoceros in Africa, so they can weigh just around 5,000. And another thing too is that the black rhinos, they have a top prehensile lip, while the white rhinos, their mouths are a bit more flat and wide, so they tend to stay low to the ground for their food most of the time. But now back to the kopie right here. It is a very nice vantage point for the lions. They usually sit way over on the top rock here, that way they can overlook the savannah and just keep an eye out for any of the prey that could be heading their way. And it seems like the male is sleeping on the lower rock, but you can see him there.
You see?
Now, honestly, the lions, they're very lazy animals. They do like to sleep around 16 to 20 hours a day. Their excuse, though, is that they are nocturnal, so they're most active during the nighttime. And they need to sleep so much because it will help them to maintain their energy for when they need to hunt at night. But since they mostly hunt at night, that means they're kind of going to gorge out and eat as much as they can. So they can actually go several days without hunting after eating so much. But it's kind of fitting to see the warhogs a little bit after seeing the lions. See them way over here in the back left.
Jen.
Also sleeping. Now, there's actually a little fun way to tell the difference between male and female warhogs, and it's by the number of warts on their face. Because the males, they have 4 warts, while the females, they only have 2. So I guess they have a skincare regimen for themselves or something there. Oh, and hello again to another ostrich. Now, a little fun fact for you guys. We do have 3 female ostriches here on the reserve, and it seems like our 3rd one is way over here on the right. But a little little bit of something funny is that they're all named after male Muppet characters. So it seems like we all just found Dr. Honeydew, Fozzie, and Beaker today. Oh, but it seems like their eggs weren't too far from them. If you guys look to the right side on the ground, you see the ostrich eggs there? Yeah, those eggs, they weigh around 3 to 5 pounds. They're very strong. So much that even if a full-grown adult tries to step on them, they will not crack. But it does only take them up to 40 days to hatch, so it's really not all that long, especially for being such a big egg. But they are huge because they do come from the largest species of bird. But I will tell you guys, the ostriches, they are one of the flightless birds. But at least they'll use their wings to their own advantage. So what they do is they lift them up when they're running, and it's going to do the same thing that the cheetah's tails does for them. So it's going to help them to change direction when they start to sprint. But now over here, as we head out of the savannah, we're going into the Magoti Glen, but I do call this the Magoti Glen, and that is because a couple of Nigerian dwarf goats, they did in fact take over. This used to be home to our warden, but I mean, look how cute these goats are. We just can't say no to them, so this is their territory now.
Oh my god.
Look at the meeting. Well, seeing that goat eating there, we can actually talk about their digestive system because personally, in my opinion, it is very interesting because the journey to the goat's stomach, it splits into 4 different compartments. And what that means is that they can eat any food or any random thing that they want. So they can eat a little toy, for example, and that'll be okay. Their stomach will digest it. But what's even weirder is that they cannot digest any grains. So if they try to eat rice or bread, it's going to be very bad for them. So it's important for their farmers or for even other people who decide to house those goats to remember, just to make sure they don't feed them any of the wrong things. But if you guys want to get a closer look at the goats, great news, you actually can. You just gotta head over to Rafiki's Planet Watch, that's right here in Africa, because over there is something called the affection section. So you not only find the goats, but you'll also find a couple of cows, pigs, sheep, even donkeys and alpacas over there too. But this is very fun, especially for the little ones, because you can pet those animals, brush their hair, and you can even feed them. But a little heads up though, the goats, they love to play around, and it does kind of look like they're fighting because they like to butt heads and jump on each other. But don't worry, it's them being friendly, and it's a way of showing a form of trust too, because they know they're not going to hurt one another. I think it's kind of funny. But right across from the affection section over at Rafiki's, there's also the animation experience. So over there you can take a drawing class with an animator, and they're going to teach you how to draw one of your favorite Disney characters. And personally, this is one of my favorite things to do here in Animal Kingdom, simply because you get to sit down inside for around 30 minutes and just draw. So it's a nice little break you can take, especially from all the walking you guys are going to be doing today. And you get to sit in the AC for a bit too, and that's always nice. And I believe right now they are drawing the characters from the movie Zootopia. So you can actually draw Judy Hopps, Nick Wilde, and even Flash the Sloth. I know he's a huge fan favorite. Jumbo Audrey! Now over here, guys, you are getting a little bit of a backstage tour as we head over to our dock. We're passing by these two, but we're going to go all the way back to the ones that you guys came onto the truck at. So it's a little bit of a longer ride. But now actually to head over to Rafiki's Planet Watch though, you guys do have to take the Harambe Wildlife Express train, and this is about a 5-minute ride, but it does take you on a backstage tour as well, so you guys get to see some animal barns. You can see the white rhino barn, the elephants, and even the top of the Kopi for the lions. And I know the male is sleeping super low right now, but sometimes later in the day, they're going to sit way on the top rock, and you'll get an amazing view of them, especially if you're on the train. But the last train though, it does leave at 4:30 p.m. today, so just keep that in mind because it does close a lot earlier than the rest of the park. But now friends, we're almost to our dock over here, but we're going to be passing by lots of people. But as we pass by, we can do a couple things. Now one, you can all practice your princess wave as we go by, you know, give them a little bit of a welcome. Or if you're very shy, then either number 2, you can put your sunglasses on, a hat, maybe shield your face, and maybe think that make these people think that you're a celebrity, you know? It's all suspicious. Makes them super curious, and they always give us weird looks as we pass by. But if you guys want to welcome them even more, you can join me by yelling Jumbo at the top of our lungs. I will be doing it. I always love to when I pass by. So if you guys want to join me, we'll just count to 3. We're just going to wait for this truck to head on out and get their safari journey started. And alright. ready. Now here we go, guys. 1, 2, 3. Jumbo! And again, 1, 2, 3. Jumbo! Wow, that is crazy. How are you guys louder than me? And I'm literally the one with the microphone, but it's alright. That was very impressive. But alright, friends, now we are heading towards the end of the safari. But I don't want to say goodbye. That's just way too sad and way too final. So instead, I'm going to leave you all with one last Swahili phrase, and that is Kwaherini. In Kwaherini, it does mean to go well. So I really hope you all go well and go wild, but you know, don't go too wild, of course. Still a family park, guys. But we're just going to be waiting a little bit for this truck in front of us to head on out.